Imagine a world where you never have to work for survival, where everything you need just appears. Well, actually a scientist built exactly this for mice. However, something went wrong, really wrong. And what caused this disruption, we have built it in our own world. So, in this video I will go over the 5 principles that were broken in that colony and how this relates to us. So, let's start with what actually happened. Hi there, I'm Yvette, a neuroscientist and an author of several neuroscience studies. On this channel I explore how the brain works and decode its mysteries, but most importantly, how you can think better in a world shaped by AI and tech. Before we talk about the collapse, you need to understand how perfect this place was supposed to be. In 1968, researcher John Calhoun built something he called Universe 25. It was a massive enclosure designed to give mice everything that they could ever need. Food and water were always available. There were plenty of nesting spots, the temperature was controlled, and the whole setup could support thousands of animals without any resource shortage. No predators and no struggle. Into this ideal world, he introduced 4 breeding pairs. For a while, it looked like a success story. The population grew fast, doubling roughly every 55 days. And by day 315, more than 600 mice were living in what should have been a stress-free paradise. Then things began to shift in ways that were hard to explain at first. Some males became violent, attacking whatever moved. Others withdrew completely and stopped defending any territory. Females abandoned their pups, and groups of mice crowded into specific areas and fought over them, even while many perfectly good spaces stayed empty. And then came the group that Calhoun called the beautiful ones. These mice kept themselves spotless, always grooming, always looking healthy, but they avoided every form of social interaction. So there was no mating and no exploration. Their behavior shrank into a repetitive loop that never changed. And by day 600, birds dropped sharply, and by day 920, the last pregnancy occurred. And in 1973, the population reached 0. And this collapse was not caused by hunger or disease. It was not even caused by violence alone. The real failure happened inside the brain, long before it showed up in the behavior. And to understand why, we need to look at 5 basic needs that every social brain depends on. So principle number 1 is predictable spaces. Even though Universe 25 had a lot of physical room, the mice never knew who they might run into. Every corner could hold a stranger, every tunnel could bring conflict. Their world became unpredictable, in a way that their brains were not built for. The amygdala, which helps us detect threats, relaxes when life feels stable. In Universe 25, it never got the chance. The mice lived in a constant state of low-level alarm, and over time this disrupted their ability to parent, to make decisions, and to stay motivated. We see a version of this today. We have open offices where people can walk behind you at any moment, notifications that appear without warning, and digital spaces that at the flick of your finger you can watch rabbits jumping and soon after be transported to a war zone. So even if nothing is physically dangerous, your brain reacts as if something could be. Universe 25 had space, but it did not have peace, and the difference mattered. Well, maybe it is time to start designing your environment to have a dedicated safe space. Then there is principle number 2, which is meaningful effort. Now, think about the beautiful ones again. On the surface, they looked calm and content, but their behavior was the opposite of healthy. They had no real purpose. They groomed, they ate, and slept on repeat, because those were the only actions left that felt safe. Our dopamine system is designed to link effort with reward. When a challenge leads to an outcome, motivation grows. But when all effort is removed, the system loses direction. The brain clings to simple habits that offer a tiny hit of comfort. We see this pattern in modern life as well, because we all have days that feel comfortable but strangely empty. Hours lost to scrolling or passive entertainment. The feeling of moving through life without actually moving forward. So what this teaches us is that comfort without meaning does not support the brain, it actually drains it. Think about this the next time that after a long day at work, you decide to sit on the couch and watch Netflix on repeat. Well, until you sleep, right? Then there's principle number 3, which is agency. The next issue is something that often goes unnoticed in Universe 25. The mice had everything handed to them, which meant nothing they did changed anything. They did not have to search for food or build nests or solve problems. Their actions had no impact on their world. They had to just be. When outcomes are predetermined, the brain starts to learn that choices do not matter. This is the essence of learned helplessness. It appears in jobs where you take orders without influencing decisions, or in digital environments where algorithms pick what you see. It shows up anywhere your actions feel disconnected from the results. So motivation depends on some degree of control. Without it, behavior becomes passive and then afterwards unstable. Then there's principle number 4, which is clear roles. Early in Universe 25, the mice behaved in predictable ways. Dominant males guarded territory, females built communities, and young mice had support. There was a basic social structure that kept behavior organized. Once the population increased, those roles dissolved. Males either became extreme in their aggression or avoided conflict altogether, and females pulled away from caregiving. The entire system lost its sense of order. Your prefrontal cortex depends on stable roles to guide behavior. Roles give structure to your identity. They help you understand where you fit and what actions make sense. So when roles disappear, direction disappears with them. We see this today in unstable career paths and communities where people no longer know one another well enough to form clear social identities. Because without structure, behavior starts to fracture. And then there is principle number 5, which is the small group belonging. This is the foundation that holds everything else together. And in Universe 25, it was the first thing to fail. One of the earliest behavioral changes was the disappearance of grooming. Mice stopped caring for each other. Mothers stopped nurturing their pups. And some of them even harmed them. The enclosure was full of mice, yet none of them were connected in a meaningful way. Oxytocin, the hormone that supports bonding and trust, drops under chronic stress. When the environment feels unsafe, the brain protects itself by pulling back from relationships. In Universe 25, the mice encountered too many strangers too often. Their social circuits became overloaded. Instead of forming stable groups, they retreated into isolation. This is the same force we see in modern loneliness. Cities full of people who never meet. Online networks with thousands of contacts and no real closeness. And a sense of being surrounded but still alone. Humans are built for small groups of trusted individuals and not a massive network. Once this foundation breaks, everything else begins to crumble. So, Universe 25 is a warning of what could be, because all the principles mentioned above are featured in our world. But somehow I believe that if we design our cities, the workplace, our homes, and our digital spaces around these principles, rather than breaking them, we can break the outcome of Universe 25. And somehow we would be building a world where humanity strengthens rather than sinks. And wouldn't that be nice? And I wonder, since you made it this far, what will you change in your life after this video? I know many things are outside of our control. If your office is an open office, you have little say in changing the layout, right? But still, there is still something that one can do, I guess. So while I was researching for this video, I started to think what I could change in my life. And one thing that I thought could move the needle in this regard would be to figure out what is my purpose and what I would like to contribute to the world. Because I think this will give meaning to my efforts. It will also give me agency, and if I dedicate myself to the cause, it will also give me a community of like-minded people. Well, yeah, and now your turn. Anyway, Universe 25 was carried out in an environment where there was no free will. However, how much free will do we actually have? Well, to answer this question, watch this video next, where I go over the neuroscience data we have about our free will and whether if it is an illusion after all. And with this, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!